Hola!
I'm Johanna.
And I'm Denisse.
Welcome and bienvenidos to the Love and Evolve podcast, where we discuss topics surrounding holistic wellness, such as mental, physical, and spiritual health. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer.
Love and Evolve Wellness Podcast is a community space for conversation, growth, and healing. However, it is not a substitute for professional mental or medical care. El podcast no sustituye ayuda psicológica o médica.
We encourage you to seek resources and support in your community. We love you, los queremos mucho, and you matter to us.
Thank you for listening, and on to the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back again. It's me, Denisse.
And Joe.
Woohoo! Just gotta say, loving the feedback and the amount of downloads. I don't have the number, but of our most recent episode, Take Care of Your Sexual Self. My goodness, y'all love that one. Ow! We're so excited, and that was just so much fun to do. So thank you for listening. Today is on the milder side. So we're just going to go into other things now. We did quite a few episodes on the body. So today we're talking about storytelling, and more so the power of storytelling, the power of your voice and telling your story and getting to know your story. So where to start? Well, I'd like to start with the question, I am, and fill in the blank. Well, that's not a question. What I mean is when someone asks you, who are you? What are you about? If you're like me, I think it's pretty common, or I don't know, maybe I'm just speaking for myself here to hear that question. Who are you? Tell me about yourself. The response is usually, freeze. I don't know. How do I answer that? You know, coming up with the quote unquote elevator pitch of yourself, and how do you sum yourself up in just a handful of words or a couple of sentences? And a lot of times we go to the things that we do. So I am an accountant, I am a daughter, a wife, a mother, a sister, I am the eldest or the youngest, or I'm an only child, or things that are labels. And beyond those labels lies a whole lot more of a story. So how do we tap into that and also not cut ourselves short?
Yeah.
Yes, it's important to say what you do, but you are more than what you do.
You know, we've come to a place where it's like whenever anybody asks, hi, how you doing? Or how are you doing? It's like, you know, we go to this autopilot response of like, I'm good. And the same with when people ask us like, who are you? Tell me about yourself. At least I know for me, I always freeze because I'm like, are you like, how much time do you got? Like, I can be really authentic real quick, and sometimes maybe too personal. And so, you know, it's like almost like I want to be able to read my audience before I share any information. And I struggle with that because it's like, okay, well, do I tell them I'm a life coach? Do I tell them that I'm a podcast host? Like, do you want to know if like my marital status? Like which one do you want to know? And it's just, I find it really challenging to answer that question myself.
Yeah, and those things are, you know, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot that's beneath that surface, the surface of a title or a label that can have a lot of meaning. So like for yourself, when you're saying, I'm a life coach, okay. But beneath that are all the qualities about yourself, the things that got you to that place to then embrace that about yourself. And so that's really what I want to dig into here is how do we get there and how do we get comfortable with that? Because it's a big question to answer of who are you when you may still be trying to figure that out, or it's in a state of change, you know, for life circumstances or what have you, because, you know, we're allowed to change and do something different. So what I'm getting at is your strengths and your qualities as a person. So what are your unique gifts that you're bringing to the world? Because it is, I think, easy to get lost in titles to then just say, I am blank. I am this, right? I'm a writer. Cool. But then what is it about that is so you? So I would like to challenge you to lead with the qualities, the strengths that make you you? What is behind everything that's happened that has gotten you to this point to then say, I am an entrepreneur who is all about women's rights, and I bring forth my passion of connecting with people and my strengths of empathy and listening to then build greater community. It's like, whoa, even just saying that feels so much stronger than being, oh, I'm an entrepreneur and I help women. You know what I mean? Like, no, take yourself there. Like, what are you? And owning that and writing that story and then saying, let me introduce you. Like you said, Joe, how much time you got? What chapter do you want to dive into? Because I am a gift. So sit down and let's talk,
If only it was that feeling every time. Let me tell you, like I'm hearing you and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I'm recognizing that I have this internal light that comes up when I hear you speak, because it's telling me, hey, this is familiar to you. And it's that of like trying to make myself not sound more than or owning my power. And I don't, that's been something that I've struggled with my entire life is allowing my light to shine. It's always like, and it's such a simple question of like, tell me about yourself. And it's like, okay, all these rules, right, that have been set in place, like, okay, tell someone about yourself, but don't tell them too much because you don't know if you can trust them. Or tell them, but don't sound like you're doing too much because you don't know their situation and you might be arrogant. Or, all of this, el que dirán, or like how you'll be perceived, and it takes over. And just realizing that a lot of the challenges that may come up, I mean, at least for myself, when these questions come up, is like, oh, I don't know where I'm supposed to answer on the spectrum here. Like, when I really want to say, like, I am a life coach and I really care about people healing at their core, but that feels like almost like, okay, now I'm sounding like I'm too proud or I'm too, and so I'm really curious about where does that come from? Where, of course, our history and our upbringing and all of this stuff plays a role, but I'm like late 30s now and I'm still like, oh, I don't really want to say how great I feel, but then I do, but then I feel like this hesitation to really own my power.
That's what you just said about owning your power. There are two things that came to mind when you were talking. There's one is other people taking your narrative and saying, this is the expectation or this is the box that you fit in. And then running against that. And then there is the one that you've also been, and when I say you, I'm not saying you, but when I'm saying like someone might tell themselves about themselves to keep them safe, almost self-protecting of like, oh, I don't know about stepping into that and owning, because then I'd have to fight against this and that and those boxes that people are saying I should be fitting into. And that's that inner negative self-talk that can happen that then starts telling a story for you and about you that really isn't the true one. And it seems kind of like, whoa, what am I even saying? Because there's the voice inside your head, but then there's you. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's competing voices. So there can be a harmful story that a lot of us can start spinning about, oh no, but you're not that. That's not your story. Or you are this because of that. So therefore this is your story.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I can only imagine, especially with if trauma is involved, like that you're not giving an opportunity to share your piece, like that in and of itself, it's its own thing. Absolutely. And then outside of that, to feel like, at least, something I'm owning right now is I'm a recovering people pleaser. Like I really want to be liked by people. So sometimes when I'm in this autopilot state, I might say what I really think that this other person wants to hear. And I'm really trying to get out of that place, and, years of therapy and all this stuff to work through that, of like it's okay to say what I feel and what I believe. I shouldn't have to change that to be liked by another person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about, and I know we have some guys, so shout out to the guys who listen to us, and I hope you don't feel left out, because I was just starting to think about women's right to, be in the workplace and make equal pay, and, those kind of inequalities. Having a story spun for yourself in the workplace or in the home, and how much work it takes to say, no, you will not tell my story for me. I am telling it. You don't know my story. And I know that can be experienced for men as well. There are stereotypes about like, no, the man is supposed to be out in the world making money. You're not supposed to be at home.
Don't share your feelings.
Don't share your feelings. And it's like, that may not be you at all. That may not fit with the story that you want to create for yourself and your family, and who you want to be in this world. And, who are we to tell you that you can't write that story? Shame on society. Not cool. And you were talking about how painful it is when you can't, or you feel like your voice is being shut out, and how traumatic that can be to feel like your voice is being taken from you.
So where can we start if we really want to step into our power and really let our true voices be heard? Where can we begin?
I always go to community and finding people that, and I want to be careful here because I don't want to say that it's about trying to be other people, like, oh, I want to be more like this, therefore I'm going to try and be like these people, so I'm going to look up for them. No, I mean, like, people you look up to that are living out what you value and what you feel is authentically you, and you to express it in your own way. Finding community, I think, is a huge piece, and not feeling alone, and then feeling like you've got people behind you who've got your back to say, yeah, I got you. I hear you. I hear your story. And then the other piece, and this is something that I've done myself, is asking people I trust and love, who I know me and trust and love me, what they value and appreciate of me as a person, and what they see my strengths are. And that is so heartwarming, and like really eye-opening to hear someone and see them and have their eyes light up and they smile and like, I really love how you're like this and like that. And I really see your strengths. And they may say things that you're like, whoa, I kind of knew, but didn't realize, or, oh, that's a new one. And I impact someone in this way, in a positive way. And that can be a nice way to see yourself through other people's eyes and how they experience you. For me, that was helpful when I had a hard time seeing myself at all. Feeling like I really don't know who I am or what I have to offer. So that also created community too, then to go to people who I trusted and felt safe with. And that they were so willing to share how they felt about me and how they saw me. And it was just such a gift to hear that from them and feel like, okay, so I am something. And I can take those things and then dive deep a little bit more. So if you're really struggling, I felt that was incredibly helpful for me.
Wow. As I'm hearing you talk about this further, I think something that comes up for me when I think about communities and I think about groups and all of this is like the importance of really starting introspectively and saying, okay, I need to figure this out for myself before, we can have our elevator pitch and all that, but like before I go there, I want to make sure that what I'm saying is truly aligned with who I am, because I don't want to end up getting caught up in because of course we're busy. Yeah. So if our elevator pitch is X, Y, and Z, because that's how we were trained or that's what we're told and all of these things, then that's what we're going to say. But if at our core, we're not aligned to that idea, then it can really create these feelings of anxiety or depression or just feeling like this emptiness. And so I really want to like just shed light on the idea that there's value in being introspective and trying to figure out, okay, without anybody here, who am I? How do I identify myself? like what's my birth story? And that's a whole nother thing. But like, like where do I come from? What's my history? How did I get here? Knowing those things for yourself. And if there's gaps, to question or wonder, why are there gaps and what can I do to fill them so that I can feel more complete, or that I can find a description for who I am that is in alignment with me, that I am happy with.
Yeah. And our stories can change, right? We can have the history or story of the things that made us who we are, the struggles, the triumphs, all of that that have gotten us to this point in how we see ourselves, and that we have the power to write the next chapter and be like, cool, that was that. I'm ready to move in a different direction, or completely start a whole nother book.
Yes. I love this so much, because it's like, okay, I thought that this is what I wanted to do, and I have full control of what I want to do next. So if I'm going to all of a sudden decide that I'm going to change who I am, you have that in your power to do that.
Yeah. And this makes me think of when I was working a 9-to-5 soul-sucking startup. It was awful. I mean,
You guys could see her face right now. She's like,
agony. I mean, it just wasn't for me. It was, other people were fine, but like for me, oh my God, it was like I was on this path. Okay, that was going to be me and my life. I was going to always be in some office and work in that kind of an atmosphere. And when I said I wanted to quit, the inner turmoil of even saying those words out loud, of like, I'm going to completely switch. I want to quit now. I want to go back to school. I want to get my master's. Like, I want to do something that's meaningful. It was like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a train or a car crash or something inside, and then also on the outside, where people are like, what? Like, how dare you? What do you mean? That, like, you're on this train track and now you want to switch over to the next one. Like, that's gonna go horribly wrong. Like, I get it. I know it's hard to do that. And it's incredibly scary to then say, you give me back my book. You read it long enough, and now you're trying to write in it and scribble in it and highlight all over and tear out pages. Give it back. It's mine.
Yeah. That we should caution when we think about storytelling and our story, in the sense that we can share our story, but that doesn't mean that that's all we are. It's okay to admit that we are intersectional human beings that can fit into many boxes, and they might kind of overlap sometimes, and they might not. And you coming back to community, like sometimes it can be hard to find the right community, because and I'm thinking about, like, if I try to find a Latinx group or something like that, and then it's like, well, you're not Latinx enough, or you're not this enough, or and it's like, well, isn't that kind of just reiterating the same issue, which is we're classifying that you need to fit in this category exactly as it is, versus accepting and allowing you to exist as you are.
Right. Just you, the person.
Yeah.
I find this conversation so interesting because there are so many different angles and ways to go with this. And you were talking about, just being you as a person, and that we are multifaceted, and we can be all kinds of different boxes, and they can change, and they can,
they can
change.
That really spoke to me. So I wanted to emphasize that they can change, just like your sexual orientation can change, who you love can change, who you believe yourself to be, how you express yourself, all of those things.
That made me think about, and it seems so silly, and I had this in my notes, but resumes of changing careers. Right here, you've got this whole resume story. You've been blah, blah, blah for so long, and then now you want to switch, and then you're trying to tell on a piece of paper to to people that you're like, yes, this was part of my story, and now it's going to be something else. And to then communicate that you can be more than this one story that is on this piece of paper.
So we're talking about all these different ways that we can identify ourselves, different ways that we can tell our story. Okay, well, this is great, but where do I start with this, or what can I do to help my gears start turning? And something that might be really helpful is if you were to just take a blank piece of paper and just write down all of the words that come to mind when you try to identify yourself. So it's like, who am I? So just, and initially all of them might be labels, which is okay. Those are also part of your identity and your story. But what you'll find is that as you start to place all of those title labels, then you'll start to get into the deeper stuff. And as you go deeper and deeper into it, you'll figure out like, okay, these are the pockets that I fall in, and not to place you in a category, but for you to see that fluidity across different areas.
Oh, beautiful.
And just to be able to say like, okay, these are all the areas that I fall in, and just see it, just visualize it.
And I'd be curious what, as you're writing these things down, what wants to come out that's kind of going, oh, I don't know. Is that something that you're like, ooh, am I waiting for permission? Put it anyways. So what is it? And then revisit. And what is it about that feels hesitant? Is it because it's something that you're looking forward to? It's something that hasn't been written yet, but you feel like you're on your way? Or is it something that you feel like you need to work through to get to the point where you can say, yeah, that is a part of me. I know I am, but I'm struggling to get there, to get to the point when I can say confidently, yes. So I'm really curious how much of that may come out as you're going through your list of descriptors and and titles or labels or what have you that you feel make up who you are. What are those other ones that are going come back? Maybe put this one down.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that it makes it such a cool experience because not only are you able to basically brain dump all the stuff that it's like, okay, yeah, these are the things that identify me on a status quo, but like once you do that, what you're allowing your brain to do is open up to really see all of those pieces that are at your core. And like Denise said, those things that are kind of like, hey, I'm over here, you really care about this. And it will help you identify what is it that's really there that I haven't allowed myself to do? Because those things are usually the things that spark that passion, that fire you up, that keep you motivated, that direct you to your purpose. And it's really difficult to even become familiar with it or to see it or notice it if we're constantly just staying up on this labels or descriptors stage, which is okay if that's where you're at. But the more you explore, I guess I'm inviting you to explore this further and to see what surfaces for you. It can only be great things.
It can be very illuminating, and even to those things that feel kind of icky, that maybe a label or a title someone else has given you and you want to say, but I don't want to be that. How many of us are really great at doing things and people are like, oh, you should do that, and you're like, yeah, I know I'm good at it, but I don't want to be that. That's not who I want to be. I don't really want that to be a part of like the forefront of my story. It can kind of be in the notes section, but I don't want it to be the title page. So today's episode, we wanted it to feel a little bit more organic. I feel like this was more of like a conversation and something that was at the forefront of both of our minds and us trying to figure out where we are in our own stories and how we're writing the next couple of chapters. And also it feels like it's in the air, like lots of people are going through that very same thing. So today's episode is a little bit kind of more fluid, a little more organic, and us just going intuitively wherever things want to go, just because storytelling, I mean, I'm very passionate about stories and people telling their stories and the power that it can have to share it and for others to hear other people's stories. So that's just a big passion of mine. And I felt really pulled to have this as a topic. But like I said earlier, it's something that Joe and I are both processing through ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so there may be a little connection there too. Maybe you're also going through something like this as well.
Yeah, and I guess to let you all in on a little bit more on what's been going on is we have found, well, I guess I'll speak for myself and then I'll let you, Denise, share what it's been like for you. But I really found myself like having this vision for the business that I'm doing and then feeling like, something's not right. Why isn't it working? Or what doesn't it feel like? Or why does this feel like so difficult? Or, and what I realized was that I was following the structure that I thought was what it meant to do the business this way. And I mean, of course, this is my first time going into entrepreneurship, so it's all new information and I'm learning and I wasn't really cutting myself slack. I was being super tough on myself, being super hard and a big critic and, way past beyond being constructive. Like it gets to the point where it goes in the negative direction. And that's when I had to incorporate all of these coping skills, etc. But the point is that it's hard. And we have found that we have our own stories that we're telling and we're trying to figure out how to do that. And it's okay if you're in that place, if you're in this place of limbo. It's really uncomfortable, but that usually means that you're heading in the direction where you'll have your answer.
Yeah. And I want to appreciate and acknowledge what you were just saying, and that there is such expectation for people to want a one answer of like, no, but tell me what you are. And, when people are invested in a certain part of your story and just like, I just want the answer. What do you do? That good old question when you go to a party, what do you do? And it's like, oh, but that's not fair because it doesn't capture
everything.
I do it all. No.
Darth Vader voice.
Like it doesn't capture it all. So I really love I don't know if you can call it a movement, but when people start to really go away from that question of like, hi, how are you? What do you do? Because that's just not a great way to really get to know someone who and who they are underneath all of that. Because what someone does, they may not even want to be doing what they're doing.
What about you, Denisse? What's been your story lately? We've both sort of been, trying to figure that out for ourselves and what that means for us working together and all of it.
Yeah, for me, it's always been about giving myself permission to be multiple things.
Yes. Oh my God. That needs to go on a t-shirt. I give myself permission to be multiple things or to be multidimensional.
Multidimensional. There you go. Yeah, that's been a big struggle of, how do I define me? Okay, well, I am this and that, and going, but there's more to it. I'm not just one thing. So how can I be present and show that I am more than one thing and communicate this? What did I do this past year? So it's been diving into creative projects. So I have a weekly group that I write with every Saturday morning. I practice yoga as much as I can. And so there's part of that I want to do and share. And so how do I merge all of these things? My creativity and my passion for wellness and health. And it's like, whoa, it's a lot to then try and put in a box or put into a check. That's it. That's been mainly what I've been working through of broadening the scope of what I am or what that definition is. Because on social media, I try and not get on it as much, but it's like, it seems like everyone's got it figured out. Right. And then it's like, oh, wait, that's how someone does it. So maybe that's what I need to do now, or that's how this person does it. Or it's quite a lot to sort through. So that's where I'm at. And I'll let y'all know where I am on this journey. Strap in, come along for the ride.
Yep. We are here for you. I am here for you, Denisse.
Yeah. And I mean, all this to say, it's not like we're not saying this to be like, oh, feel bad for us. No, it's more of like, we are there with you. Okay. This is a part of being in a community of, we want to be in an exchange of knowledge. This isn't us saying, here are the things we know and take it and it's got to be this way and it can't be any other way. No, we really want this to be about engaging in conversation. We've heard how you have experienced this podcast, and it's so heartwarming and encouraging when you're like, it feels like I'm in the living room with you and we're like hanging out and we're talking, and it's like, yes, that's what we want. We're real people.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like, one of the things that we definitely don't want to be sending, like the message we are not sending, is that we have it figured out. We do not have it figured out. There is we have a lot of resources that we exchange with each other, and that we're hoping to exchange and share with you. And like, shit is hard. So like, I know I myself have been experiencing harder times this week, and emotionally, in my mental health, and so that stuff kicks in, and it's okay to acknowledge, like, I'm struggling this week, I'm needing a little extra love this week. And like, that's good. If you're not experiencing any challenges, I would say, like, are you not human? Like we have so much that is happening right now. I guess what we're really saying is, we're trying to be as open as we are with each other, with you, about our process, and knowing that it's not always going to be perfect. And if you're here with us through the bumpy parts, then fantastic. You will love us when we're in our element.
Yeah, and that expectation to be everything and know everything, it's just not realistic. It's like expecting, and I think that can be a trap too. Like working in mental health, I don't know if you experienced this, Joe, but it's like, oh, but if I'm a therapist or if I'm a counselor, shouldn't I have it all together? Oh, what? We're human. Like, that's not fair to then think that, oh, but the therapist has to have everything figured out in their life. And also, that does not discount or take away they are still knowledgeable. They can still help you. But just like you, there are things that they have got to figure out. So if you feel like you're in this place of like, I don't know how to step into this because I don't have these things figured out, nobody does. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, coming back to the whole like multidimensional intersectionality of it, like, intersectionality is its own thing, and we can do a whole episode on that, because that is very complex. So there's a lot there. So please do not take what I'm saying as I'm minimizing it, because that's not what I'm doing at all. But to bring back the idea that we can be in many different places, honoring that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can still be a leader in something and still have some areas that you're like, well, that wasn't so great, So to summarize, we started with a whopper of a question, which we love. We love these big questions of, who are you? Who am I? How do we approach this question when someone asks, who are you? And we want to challenge and also challenge ourselves to go beyond the titles, the quick, I am this or I do that. What is underneath that? And is there a change happening? And is there any title that we want to shed, do away with, that no longer fits our story? And also, if it's really tough to think about, say, if your mental health is kind of in a low place and you're like, oh, I just don't feel great about myself, I don't know who I am, that leaning into friends and family and people who really know you and that you feel safe with, asking them, what do you love about me? What is it that, and it may seem kind of like selfish or kind of silly to ask. If it feels that way, offer up an exchange to that person you're asking, like how you feel about them and the things that you appreciate about them. So have this be a real kind of positive exchange between you and who you're interacting with. It can be really helpful to then see yourself through someone else's eyes, through the eyes of somebody who really cares about you and is like your cheerleader, because often it's the other people around us who love us who are like, oh, I believe so much of you, so much in you, if only you could, So check in with those people, and also journaling and brain dumping all of those identifiers and those things that we do, those labels that we've put on ourselves that either we do identify with and we love, or the ones that have been thrown on us that we're trying to figure out if it really fits. We went in a whole bunch of other tangents, but
Yes, we did. But I think that you've done a wonderful job just kind of like walking us through the importance of storytelling.
So important, and it's so ever changing.
So we'll close with this. I have affirmation notes that I have from a law of attraction planner that I have. And we can definitely put the link in the show notes if you're interested in this planner. I love it. But anyways, I will share some of these affirmations and we'll end there. I will start with some that can help if you are experiencing a difficult time with your mental health right now. I am loved despite my sadness. My discomfort will not last forever. I am separated from my depression. I am separated from my anxiety. And these other ones can help if you're in this process of trying to answer the questions of who am I? The past has no power over me anymore. Every day and in every way, I get better and better. I follow my heart and my dreams no matter what. I am deeply fulfilled with who I am.
I feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Thank you, Jo. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.
Yes.
We appreciate and love you. And you are just as you need to be, and you are complete and whole. So keep going.
Keep chugging.
Until next time.
Until next time. Un fuerte abrazo. Hoy un beso. Mwah.
We thank you for sharing your time with us and for listening to the Love and Evolve podcast, where we share tools, resources, and education on topics that cover holistic wellness, encompassing mind, body, and spirit.
Find details on how to stay connected with us in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you. Les damos un fuerte y enorme abrazo. Mwah.
Mwah.
Hola, 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 hola,
Hola.
hola, hola, hola.
That's going in there.